Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. Every week on our show, we talk about food and cooking and the meanings of food and cooking. We talk with the most interesting people in food about their techniques, their culture, and everything in between. Whether it's about how fried chicken took over the world or how Instagram changes the way people are actually eating. It's a food show where everyone is welcome. Come join us. You can listen to The Splendid Table wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is supported by HRN business member Itani Ramen, Chef Kyle Itani's expression of Japanese dining culture located in Oakland, California. At Itani, Kyle explores Japan's rich culture, focusing on traditional flavor profiles and offering an izakaya experience made up of a diversity of small bites, donburi bowls, cocktails, and plenty of ramen. Itani's sister restaurant located next door, Yonsei Hand Rolls, serves open-faced Japanese sushi hand rolls made of crisp nori, seasoned sushi rice, and top-notch fish. Itani Ramen and Yonsei Hand Rolls support HRN's creative, educational reporting and storytelling that drives conversation to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place.
Welcome to Spill and Dish, a podcast from the Specialty Food Association. Founded in 1952, SFA is the leading trade association and source of information about the nearly $207 billion specialty food industry. We champion the food producers, retailers, and buyers who make up the specialty food world. In this special episode, we're speaking with a session speaker at the upcoming Summer Fancy Food Show in New York City, taking place June 23rd through the 25th. Today's guest is Anthony Mangieri, founder of Una Pizza Napoletana, a New York City restaurant staple and a pioneer of Neapolitan-style pizza in the United States. Mangieri will be participating in a session titled A Pizza Lover's Journey in Food Service and Retail, about the evolution of the Una Pizza Napoletana brand and the launch of Genio della Pizza, Mangieri's specialty frozen pizza brand for retail. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm. So let's dive right into it. How did Una Pizza Napoletana come to be?
Oh my gosh, that's a very long journey that started when I was 15 years old, and I'm 52 now. So I grew up in an Italian-American family, fell in love with that type of cuisine and true Italian cuisine at a really young age, and pretty early on became obsessed with pizza making and baking, and then one thing led to another, and I opened the first Una Pizza in 1996 in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that was in Red Bank, if I remember correctly?
That was my first bread bakery. So I actually opened the bread bakery in like 93, I think. So then a couple years later, I was able to open the pizzeria, Una Pizza Napoletana, and we're coming up on almost our 30th anniversary.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how do you feel the restaurant has transformed over this time?
I mean, it's been a constant evolution. You know, the core ideas have always been like naturally leavened dough, wood fire baked, with a focus on simplicity and the highest quality ingredients. But over the course of the 30 years, I keep adjusting the way I make dough. And I think when I started, I was really focused on trying to emulate what I thought was Neapolitan pizza and what was taking place in Naples at the time, which you have to imagine this is, many, many years ago. Now I'm in a different place where, from doing it for so long, you start to find your own voice within what you do. And, what we make now is kind of our own thing. And I guess it's still, to a lot of people, would be considered like a Neapolitan style pizza, but it's sort of just our own thing that's continuously evolving.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what do you feel marks your own thing? Do you have any signature ingredients?
Definitely.
Methods?
Yeah. I mean, I think the number one thing that marks our thing is the dough being naturally leavened, which, has become a little bit more popular recently, but for many, many years, no pizzerias were making naturally leavened dough. And that means there's no yeast in the dough, commercial yeast. It's a sourdough, essentially. And then I think the other thing that is one of our like kind of trademarks at the restaurant is the dough itself being like super hydrated. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really, I think, what most people come for. The ingredients are the best you can get. And, I try to always have every ingredient on the pizza and our small plates and dessert and anything all makes sense. I don't like to have ingredients on a plate or in a dish just for the sake of the ingredient. They all need to sing and work together and
Mm-hmm.
be there for a reason. So I think that combined with this like super hydrated, wet, kind of wild, crazy, naturally leavened dough is like the stuff that we're known for.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's very unique.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you have any favorite ingredients that you like to incorporate into the pizza?
Well, I love tomato sauce and I love
Mm-hmm.
tomatoes. So, I mean, my favorite pizza that we make is essentially just a really incredible Italian tomatoes ground up, put on the pizza with Sicilian sea salt,
Mm-hmm.
really incredible olive oil, really great fresh basil, and that's it. And it's baked. And then when it comes out of the oven, a nice amount of freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano or Pecorino Romano. That's
Mm-hmm.
my favorite way to eat a pizza.
Ooh, delicious.
Super simple, but like each ingredient, when you eat it, if they're good, you're really going to be like, oh my God, I can taste the little bites of salt. I can taste the oil. I can taste the tomatoes, and the dough shines through as well.
Yeah, and I feel like you get a lot too in the perspective of like the quality of the ingredients and the sourcing
Right.
that
Well,
comes from it.
generally, that's the case. The simpler you keep things, the harder it is to hide if it's not a great ingredient. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really a great way to showcase your ingredients is to keep it simple and let each one show how great they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. So yeah, I think this is actually a good time to also shift a little bit. And yeah, so do you think you can tell me a little bit about the decision to take on the frozen food section with your retail brand?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy couple of years. So I guess the root of why the frozen even exists and why it started is the restaurant, there's only one location, and
Mm-hmm.
that's always been a purposeful decision on my part, because I just always felt like a real obligation that like I should be there for open and really give my attention myself to the restaurant and to the customers. So that being said, I could never open more than one location. But that also meant like my growth is only going to go so far on the
Mm-hmm.
restaurant side of things. So I always for 20 years, I was like, is there something else that we could do or produce or make? And I had thought about doing our own tomatoes or this or that, which is all great as well. But ultimately, it just kind of ended up becoming pretty evident that the product that should be made, if I was going to make it, at least to enter into that market, would be a frozen pizza, since I'm a pizza maker.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of the beginnings of that. We started it over 3 years ago. It took about 2 years of R&D, and we
Mm-hmm.
launched last February. So it's been about a year and a half almost since we've actually officially existed. So it's been a big, crazy journey that's completely different than the restaurant business and the immediacy of the restaurant business. The transparency of the restaurant business is it's so much more like we make the product, we serve the product, the customer comes in and eats the product, they pay us and they leave, and that's it. And hopefully
Mm-hmm.
they love it and they feel great and I feel great, and that's the end of the whole transaction. This is like a much bigger chain that goes from beginning to when the final customer is eating it. So there's been a lot to learn. It's been super exciting and
Mm-hmm.
super challenging and sometimes super inspiring.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine. I think especially we were talking a little bit about like hydration of the dough and the ingredient quality and things like that. What were some of the like obstacles that came from transforming your original food service product into the retail landscape?
Yeah, well, that was part of the thing from the beginning too, is like trying to learn and understand that like you can't produce things in the same way
Mm-hmm.
as you do when it's, we're making 120 or 150 pizzas a night. It takes us
Mm-hmm.
15 hours of prep and service to do that. You just can't do that when you're working at scale And the idea was to do this at scale. So that was probably the initial struggle for me, was learning and understanding like the limitations that I had to work within, and then ultimately to keep pushing against those with the idea that, if this is how far we can push it now, I want to see if we can push it even further in 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, whether it's the hydration or the baking quality or the ingredient sourcing. But there's definitely been lots of limitations on that side of the business. And that connects also to the beginning stages of me just trying to commit and understand and realize like that my name would be connected to this. And, having been in business for so long and being known for, I guess being a stickler for ingredients and quality and saying no to a lot of things, I really wanted to make sure that, if this thing came out, that I wasn't embarrassed of it and that I could stand strong with it and feel proud of it. And, and so that was a lot of stuff to deal with and manage for my own expectations. And then just the reality of like making the product at scale.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So, shifting a bit to discuss the upcoming Summer Fancy Food Show.
Yes.
Are there any topics that you're most excited to speak about?
I guess just the journey, I think one of the things that is probably becoming quite popular now and is this idea of chefs, getting into the CPG retail world. So I think that journey is interesting for a lot of folks. And I think each one is so unique. Each chef is coming at it from a different place. I've been fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to also be the CEO of this thing. So I'm dealing with things that, it's not just that I created the product and I signed off on it and I don't know what's going on. I'm actually writing the checks and paying the bills and talking to brokers and on the calls with, buyers and all that stuff. So it's been like a real crash course on all of this, coming from like my humble little one restaurant that I've, existed in for 30 years. So I think that's probably what I'm most excited to get into and chat about, and the learns and struggles and the things that keep it going, keep you inspired to keep wanting to do it. Because, ultimately, what I think is probably the most beautiful aspect of entering into this world of CPG is that when it works and you can find your way on shelf, you can really connect with a number of folks that you just never can at the restaurant level. It's pretty amazing and inspiring to like have people reach out to us or know that somebody's eating the pizza in like California or Ohio or Florida or wherever. It's like, it's amazing. And I get excited about that,
It's like the creation of your community.
Yeah, it makes the world really small, really quick, in a beautiful way. Because I think, one of the things too that like the chef-driven CPG market is doing and can be really responsible for is turning and focusing a lot of this market onto like quality and really pure, clean, transparent ingredients, and that's a challenge, to get onto the shelf. But if you can do it, I think it makes the world a lot smaller because you're able to give people, culinary experiences that they may not have had the access to otherwise,
Yeah, definitely. So speaking a little bit about these chefs that are looking to go into CPG or any sort of any maker that is looking to bring a food service product to life in grocery in some way, do you have any advice for them?
I think the core number one advice would be have a reason why you're making the product in the first place. Like, is your product better than what exists? Does it need to exist? I think that's a tricky path to walk because, the world is what it is and there's so many products flooding the market and, people are concerned about, the the footprint that they make and shipping and all this stuff. So I would say, first off, make sure that if you're making a product, you can say to yourself, this is better than anything that's out there. It's not just another product that already exists, but in a different package that maybe people see a different package and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing, I want to buy it. But then when you get inside the package, it's like empty. So that would be the first thing. Like, do your due diligence, make sure you're bringing something to market that is making that category better. And then the next thing would be ready to pivot at all times, because have your goals, but be ready to always make slight adjustments in either direction as far as what your business model is going to be, what your goals are, who you think you need in your team, who you may not need in your team, all this kind of stuff, like just as you're walking this road.
Yeah, I feel like agility is such an important part of operating a business in general as well.
Totally. And again, like that's one of the things I think that us smaller, CPG brands can bring to the market compared to a legacy brand is that, we can make a decision today that's going to be put into place tomorrow. And it may be the thing that saves us and keeps us in business.
Yeah, definitely. A big thanks to Anthony Mangieri for joining us today. You can find out more about this show at specialtyfood.com and heritageradionetwork.org. And remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Special thanks to Heritage Radio Network, the world's pioneer food radio station. This is Spill and Dish, a Specialty Food Association podcast.
Spill and Dish, a Specialty Food Association podcast, is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
Hi, listeners. We want to tell you about a podcast we're really digging. It's called Christopher Kimball's Milk Street Radio. Every week, they travel the world to find the most fascinating stories about food, including children who harvest cod tongues after school in Norway and a detective who tracks down food thieves. And on Milk Street Radio, you can always find the unexpected. The comedian who ranks apples using an elaborate 100-point system, the secret history of grocery stores, and how to eat your way through Italy. They also interview the most beloved names in food like Jacques Pepin, Sola Aweli, Jose Andres, Jet Tila, Ina Garten, Nigella Lawson, and Padma Lakshmi. Plus, co-hosts Christopher Kimball and Sarah Moulton do live calls with listeners and answer their questions about ingredients, techniques, and culinary mysteries. Like, why roasting a leg of lamb made one caller's oven explode? Ever wonder why your bread won't rise or your souffle falls flat? Chris and Sarah have the answers. You'll also hear from a rotating cast of contributors, including Kenji Lopez-Alt, Cheryl Day, Dan Pashman from The Sporkful, and Alex Ainuz, a French guy cooking from YouTube. Take a listen at 177milkstreet.com/radio or just search your podcast app for Milk Street Radio.